This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and
Cam Cathcart.
what's up, man?
Dude, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you, man.
So I saw something online on Instagram.
Inappropriate? Okay.
I don't know. I haven't searched for you that way.
Okay.
But I saw something on your Instagram.
Should I be worried?
No, it was awesome. You're
Okay.
looking at you. I saw you looking at a property.
Yeah.
here in Maui.
Empty, big, giant, empty lot.
Yeah.
I'm just beginning to think, and this is not I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'm just beginning to think I might want to build a house. I've never built a house before in my entire life, like to live in.
Yeah.
I've always bought have you ever built?
I've never built. No.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing I've never done. So why not try something new? And I feel like I'm just bored sitting at home for 3 minutes every day. So I might as well try to fill that last piece of my day with a giant multi-million-dollar construction deal.
Well, and I really want you to because you said that you were going to own or finance your current house to me at 0%. 0% interest. That's
I don't
so
know if
thoughtful of
Yeah,
you.
I'm such a nice guy.
I'm pumped for you to build a house.
Oh, thank you. Well, speaking of owner financing, which I will not be doing on my house, but today's guest actually talks a little bit about how he got into real estate using a kind of a really unique a take on owner financing I've never really heard before, but could probably just allow you to print money in today's economy, which is super cool. So we talk about that with Marc Kuhn.
I'm excited about that. And honestly, it's such a cool story because he started making $1 an hour. And working his way up to a $25 million a year company.
Yeah, wild. Yeah, we talk about that today. Yeah, developing real estate, owning real estate, partnerships, all that. We talk about working with your spouse, finding good employees, luxury storage.
I liked luxury storage. That's fast. There's not a lot of people doing that.
There's no one doing what he talks about. Yeah, that was super cool. I'm gonna definitely go look into this with Open Door Capital afterwards and think, should we be doing this too? Yeah. Super cool. And my favorite part of the interview we just did though?
What was it?
Which I'm excited for you guys to listen to. It's that, remember the conversation about the 10x thinking? Yeah, this idea. I won't spill the beans, but if there's one piece of today's episode you listen to, you guys listen to the part about 10x thinking. We talk about the 10x rule from Grant Cardone for a little bit, and then the thinking that can come from that. And actually, all three of us came up with one or two solutions for making $20,000 a month within 6 months from right now, starting with nothing. I'm not saying you have to follow one of those plans, but the point of that was so powerful in terms of 10x thinking. So listen for that, and maybe somebody will make $20,000 a month within 6 months. Let me know if you do.
Doing that for any area of your life.
Any area of your life.
Because I remember you actually talked about it in one of your goal setting things, and I can't talk about it because you have to listen to it, but it was life changing. Just that thought process, doing that.
It's powerful stuff. So with that said, all that and more is coming. But before we get to the actual interview, I'm not going to throw an ad in. We'll do that later. I do have a very deep personal question to ask.
Oh no.
What do you like most about me, Cam?
Oh,
just kidding. Don't answer that question.
I love the fact that you're going to owner finance your house.
You're a good man. All right, let's get to the show with our guest today, Marc Kuhn. Marc Kuhn, welcome to the podcast, man.
Dude, thank you so much for being here. It's great to be in Maui.
It is great to have you in Maui, and I see the sun paid special attention to you.
Yeah, I'm officially a redneck now.
Yes, it's gonna turn into a tan, man.
It's gonna look great. Yeah, it's gonna be a great tan.
Yeah, it's gonna peel.
It might. You're like me, like Midwest, so you burn and then it peels off, and you're even whiter than you started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an old concrete guy, but I'll get into that. But I tan well. It's just I think it was too much.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, it could have been the outdoor massage, maybe.
No, I didn't do outdoors. No, I needed AC bad.
That's right. Your buddy did outdoor, you did indoor. You made the better choice. All right, man. So I know you as a pretty successful, high-level real estate investor. You're a developer. I know you do a lot of what you call luxury self-storage, right? I want to talk about that today. I know you're a father of several kids. I know you got a wife. So we're going to get into all that and more. I think you're a CrossFitter. You've mentioned it 13 times today. I'm just kidding.
No,
that's every. That's who I know you as today.
Yeah.
But who was Marc Kuhn?
Yeah, man. So, like I said, I actually grew up next to dad, really, in a concrete business at age 6. So my parents separated very early. By age 5, they were gone. So my dad started this concrete business, and I lived with my mom. We were very frugal. We grew up in a trailer court and had just super humble lifestyle that I didn't know any different, Don, but I always was a kid that kind of wanted a little more. And so I worked with Dad every summer. So from age 6, I started at $1 an hour, pouring concrete. You know, and at that point, I wasn't doing a whole lot in the concrete business. I'd sweep the trailer, take a nap on it, you know, whatever. But he'd pay me $1 an hour.
That's like $1 an hour.
Yeah. I remember my first check. I didn't get overtime either, but I worked 52 hours. I got $52. Hey. You know, back in 94, I was like the richest, like and ever since that first check, like, I was like, I want to keep this going. Like, how do I keep this going? I just wanted a lot out of life, and my parents, you know, supported me very well, but I just kind of kept going. So anyway, I kept working for every year. My dad would give me $1 an hour raise. I'd leave school, and in the summers I'd stay with him, work as much as I could. Pouring concrete, learning the trade of construction, basically, whether it's siding, roofing, whatever. We did mainly concrete, but I learned all sorts of trades, which I didn't think was super important at the time other than making money with my back, but I learned a lot of crucial skills that I use like today in real estate. And so anyway, I kept going with Dad for like the next 14 years. I mean, stayed right by him. And my goal was like, well, maybe I can take over this construction company. Like, Dad's back's going bad. We're in concrete. I mean, it's going to happen. And anyway, he always told me every single time, he's like, go to college because you don't want to be doing this for the rest of your life. Made a lot of sense because he's got all these back appointments and, you know, whatever. And I just remember him always telling me that. And then I did it. I went pursued college. I went for mechanical engineering. You know, this is how it starts out. And then I'm like, wow, that's way too much math. And I'm not that highly skilled. So at math, and I thought I was good at math, but simple math. And then I went in and went for like business. Some of the college credits went over. And then I was like, I want to go back into construction management. So I did 4 years of school. I'm still like 12 credits away from a bachelor degree.
You didn't actually graduate?
I did. I thought about it, like going back in COVID and like
that's funny.
Trying to do it like online, but it was like 15 credits, and then I don't know, it's not worth it. Other than maybe I could have a grad party.
Yeah, my wife's a few credits short right now of getting hers, and it's just like. She keeps every year she'll be like, I think I'm just gonna go get it. And I'm like, honey, we've made it. You don't need to. Like, you're not gonna go apply for a job. Like,
right, yeah.
She's like, I know, but I'm just so darn close to like a 4-year degree. And so she might.
You could have a big party out in Hawaii.
A big graduation party.
Yeah. So I was into that because whenever that happened. But anyway, never got my degree. I basically at that point butt heads with Dad then because he wasn't letting me take over his company. He had like a work truck figured out for me, and like this was a big deal. My dad, like, we're a 3-man company, so like I'm the right hand guy, like I'm the main guy, and then he took away the truck, and I was like, well, what the heck? And then we kind of butt heads, and I left, and I went to get a W-2 job.
Before I want to get to the W-2 stuff, what you did there, but I'm curious if, as you look back on years and years of working with them, at the end there, I mean, like, it wasn't a big business. Why didn't that scale? What didn't he do, or what did he do that made it not scale to a big operation with lots of employees? Yeah,
man, he's his own worst enemy. I think that's most business owners today. They just get in their own way because no one does it better than him. Yeah. Well, and he treated me like that. I learned from his internal processes of just doing it a lot, but he couldn't trust anyone else. He, was always the best. He had to make all the decisions. I think in that frame of mind, I mean, there's a lot of baby boomers that just do things themselves, and they always do it because that's how it's always been done. And they don't trust anyone else. They can't scale. They just can't get out of their own way. Yep. Definitely my dad's problem. Super stubborn. Wasn't able for me to relieve him. Like, Dad, I'll go sell the dry, whatever we're going to be pouring. Like, I'll go do this. And just wouldn't trust me. Didn't even trust me at the work truck. I'm like 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, I guess you probably don't want to give 18, 19, 20-year-old trucks, but I was going to take I could have done it. He could have still been in the business. I'd have worked right beside him, and I could have expanded it because I wanted more. But he's at that point when baby boomers tell you you're going to fail because you're going to expand, you're just not going to. Things are outside of our control then, right? Like, they like to be in control of everything, pause everywhere. So once it's outside of his control, he's like, you're going to have too many problems, too many people. I don't want to deal with this. And then that's kind of why we separated.
There was an online business once I was pursuing. I didn't actually want the business. I wanted the domain name. So I contact the owner, and I'm like, really want this domain name. And he's he's like, well, I'm not gonna sell the domain name, but I'll sell the company. And I'm like, oh, let's talk about it. And it was like a supplement company, and I was like, okay, let's talk. And I got the numbers, and he, baby boomer, old guy, and he goes, now listen, man, or listen, Sonny, this is not one of those businesses that you can just come in here and run on the internet by yourself, try to outsource things. You got to be working at this every single day, 70, 80 hours a week. Mm-hmm. That's what it takes to run this kind of business. And I just was like, first of all, I was like seeing dollar signs because I'm like, oh, this is such a good opportunity. But he's like, I won't sell it unless you move down here and you work with me for 2 years every day, and I'll teach you the business, and I'll make a good deal, I'll carry the contract on the whole thing. And I'm like, oh my god, it's almost enticing enough because it was like a
supplement business.
Yeah, it was like an 8-figure supplement business.
Wow,
and. It's still there. I might pursue it at some point. I still think it's a phenomenal idea. It was a huge distraction. I was
where
like,
do you
no.
have to move to?
Southern California. Oh. So there's worse places to move to.
Right.
But,
we could wholesale the
I know. Yeah. The easier way, the answer to that one, by the way, I could do it. I just didn't do it. I didn't have the guts, or it's really just a distraction. So I'm actually making a good choice. I don't know. You can go either way. But I could have just found a partner, and then a partner, and said, hey, this is my partner. He's going to move down there and work with you for a year or two and learn the business. And then when the guy's all out someday, then we can figure out how to grow it into business. But anyway, I understand the baby boomer mindset of like they didn't read the E-Myth or Rich Dad Poor Dad or the Cash Flow Quadrant. They don't read those books, Traction. They just like, this is how we do the business.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's tremendous opportunity there, especially with the baby boomers today retiring.
Right.
To buy their business.
They don't understand leverage. They don't understand leverage of money because they've been reading Dave Ramsey or some kind of belief of that. They don't like to leverage their time. Yep. They don't trust anyone else, and they don't leverage media like we are today. They just don't even get it. It's not even in the cards. So I think that was my dad's biggest problem. Mm-hmm. He's just was stubborn around the fact. So anyway, I got a W-2 job.
All right, doing what?
And testing concrete and soils. So it's about as boring as you could get. But it made good money, and I could go to college full time. So I was actually still finishing college. And I never actually finished because I actually got fired from that job after a year in. Just because as an entrepreneur, apparently we don't take direction well, and we don't listen. You would have probably gotten fired from the guy, the supplement guy. It's like that's gonna happen. So anyway, I got fired. I went and at that point, this is 2008, so it's really in North Dakota it was okay because of the oil, but in most parts of the nation it was the world was ending, and it was hard to get financing. But I did qualify for a loan. We bought a house. We got that $8,000 Obama check. We called it. And for buying a house, just a new home buy. And anyway, so we got this $8,000 check. But in order to come with the down payment, I had to sell my girlfriend's car, now wife. So I don't think her parents are super proud of me this day. We went and traded in the car. We got $6 or $7 grand cash, enough to come up with the down payment. And then we leased a new Toyota Venza or something, and so we had these $300 payments, but we had the $7 grand cash to close, and the bank needed that to close on it. So I didn't have any money. She had money. She had a marketing degree, and she was like, yeah. So anyway, we got engaged and bought a house and sold her car to get it, but we got $8,000 back. I was like, I'll give you the money back.
Yeah, that's so fun. I haven't thought about the $8,000. It wasn't that long ago when the government was paying people to go buy houses because nobody was buying houses. Now here we are today, where
dude, it's coming back.
Yeah. It's just weird how markets work. It's it swings so wildly one way to another, and then back, and then So we got this house, and then I got to go from my job 2 weeks later. So I was so I'm just actually my dad came over. He's like, oh, by this time it's been a year. So he's like, all right, we'll talk again. You know what I mean? Nothing happened. He's like, what do you guys need something? He's like, I knew it wasn't going to work out with him. So I just started my own thing, which is Mac, and that's my initials. I just I'm going to install a fart fan for somebody for $280.
Yeah.
So that was my first thing. I got a job, called somebody and was like, I'll install a fart fan for you, $280. And then my wife's dad owned a big business in town, and he had an employee way up north Minnesota, very north. And there's nobody up there, apparently, any contractors, and got a $20,000, $30,000 job from him, and then just one after another kind of grew it from $200,000 in revenue in the first year to $25 million plus today.
Amazing. Yeah, is this a construction company or what?
So it was construction, just purely construction. So I just added 1 to 2 people each year, hit lots of barriers, and you go through different phases, and a company, right? Like I have mentors and they ask, how do you break through the 1 to 2 million? It's like, well, you got to have people and you got to take on risk and processes and different things. And then there's the $3 million, $5 million range. And then you hit new problems. It's like, how are we going to do 10 million if we can hardly do 3 to 5? Well, we're going to have to start doing commercial work. You know, you just start thinking bigger. And then once I kept thinking bigger, now we're like, you know, how do we do 50, 100 million? You know, that's what we're going to keep working on.
When you started your own business, what was that like with your dad?
Well, it was rough right away. He was actually working for me because we had a lot of business. I was doing a new thing called stamped concrete. So this would be the textured concrete. Well, in North Dakota, that was apparently new and in that time about 08 or 2010. So we were the only guys, but we were getting a lot of work because of it. And then we started marketing, which no construction company markets, especially in North Dakota. So we were getting some business for residential.
Yeah.
We were attacking it. And so Dad was working next to me, and then I was helping him on the side because he didn't have any help. He was always reliant on me. And so we just kind of, and then he worked for me, and then he just retired and moved to Arizona at some point.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you're just talking about like the 2 to 3, you have to do something different million, the 5 to 6 million, we have to do something different. What was the hardest hurdle along that line of growing to $25 million? Where was it like, this sucks, I'm going bankrupt?
Yeah.
I want to go hide in a corner.
I think there's like a few milestones where I hit that. And maybe that's just a natural thing, you know. I think so. And so I think the 1 to 2, like you leave the ability to do things like I did with my dad. And so I was like 5 years in, and like it was like 200 grand, and we were doing 500 and like 700, and then 1.2 million. And I was kind of running it like my dad. I didn't know business at that time. So I actually ended up in the hospital with like a full-on, I didn't know what happened. Like I will not go to the hospital. Like we're just gonna die out there instead. But like my chest was like, I was like, we got to go to the hospital now. I was with some buddies, and they're like, yeah, you had a full-on panic attack, and it's like, you know, you're living the healthy construction lifestyle, which is 2 monsters, 2 cups of coffee. You know, you're smoking cigarettes with these guys out in the field. Like you just, it's not healthy.
I haven't smoked cigarettes yet today, but I've checked off the other 2. So.
Well, at some point it's going to catch up to you.
We can make it a good night afterwards, and but go get a pack.
But I was invincible at that time though, so it was like, and then he's like, you got to like slow it down. I just had a kid, and then we built a house. Like I thought it was like the lifestyle people like die for. Like I had 15 employees, but they all relied on one person, me. And then I realized, you know, if I don't make some changes, meaning delegating or trying to get someone else responsible, that I'm just gonna die doing construction. I was killing it though. I was making tons of margin, handling everybody's issues, and driving myself up basically to a freaking grave. So that was the toughest moment. 1 to 2 million.
So, because I think a lot of people struggle with that, like the solopreneur, where you work really hard and you make money by the amount of effort that you put in. And then you end up realizing this is terrible, and you have a panic attack and are at the hospital because you've worked so hard. Like, so what was the next step to get through that? Because I think that's one of the hardest parts in business, is when you go from like working in your business to working on your business. So what were your next steps forward?
Yeah. So I just humbled myself and be like, hey, I need outside help. And then I started bringing like my wife into this situation I'm in. I'm like, because as entrepreneurs, we don't write processes. Like it drives us nuts. And so my wife's very good, very opposite of me, very, you know, detail oriented and gets everything done right. But then I kind of added managers. I added people that were expensive. They had mortgages, and I was like getting nervous. Like these people like have families, the support, and like, so now I need like this other risk of not just like getting these guys like paychecks and they spend it every Friday and they need a paycheck again Friday, where now I have to like support people. So I have different risks, but they're willing to take a lot of the burden, the day to day, from me. And I think you just got to put yourself in a room. Like, can you put your phone down for a week and leave, and is your business operating, right? Like you just literally have to ask yourself that question. And then I just got super curious. Like how do you have 500 employees? Like that to me boggles my mind, because today I have 50. Okay, well, 50, you know, at that time is like, how in the hell would you run 50 people? Well, you got to find the key people to run, you know, you can only so many tiers talking to you at the same time. But I just learned that you have to delegate. And I got super curious, and that's what like starting reading books, whatever, just starting to figure out how to run business, not just running a solopreneur freak lifestyle that I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, at the end of the podcast, we always ask about, the books that have kind of changed your life.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll preempt that here is like, what were some of the resources, if you could think back, that helped you get into that mindset of being a business owner from someone who just ran their own business?
Yeah, I would say, a book that I would share at the end is like The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. I mean, I think it's just I'm a concrete guy, so I'm simple guy at heart. And I think he just lays operations into like the simplest formats. Like, are you just working every day, or do you have a score? Like, are we playing basketball without a hoop here? Like, do you know what you're actually accountable to do? Like, do you even have a metric? I asked my employees today, like, hey, are we crushing it or not? And it's always good. And it's like, I don't want that answer. I want a metric. I want something they're responsible for, and I want someone to measure it. Now it's like, now I'm talking in the terms of business. I'm not talking in the terms of checking in if you're doing what you need to be doing. You need to be, it's like, that's kind of how you start as a solopreneur. And, but it wore on me. It wore on me to the point, but a very good one, Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell. He will show you how to actually run a business and go from not just a small business guy to actually running multiple things at the same time, and very organized and very free.
Yeah.
I mean,
so freeing, man.
Yeah.
Like, once you get that shift mentally and then put it into practice, your whole life changes. Like all of a sudden, like things are getting done. It's like raising a kid for a number of years, and all of a sudden watching your kid like do their own work. It's like you've been folding their laundry for years and wiping their butt, and all of a sudden one day they wipe themselves. You're like, this my life just changed.
Go.
Yeah, my life just changed. Like,
let's go.
Yeah, and then they regress and they go back in. And, it takes some work to get there, but like when you can get your business running like a well-oiled machine, and then your life just becomes tinkering that engine. Yeah, it's so magical.
Yeah, it's so freeing, and I just wasn't thinking big enough though. Like, and you can knock like Grant Cardone, but I'll bring him up and the book 10X Rule, like, and I was talking apartments, and Brandon stuff's popping up, and I'm like, okay, these are duplexes and fourplexes, and then Grant's popping up, and he's like, no less than 32 units, you know the deal. And I'm like,
which I disagree with him on that, but he can have his opinion.
Yeah, right.
He can be wrong. That's fine.
And I was so confused. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, what does NOI mean? What is all this? And then there's like this whole lingo. It's like a government lingo that you need to learn, and that took me like 3 years, but he just got me thinking bigger in the fashion of like, dude, you're just trying to figure out your little business over here, and like people are solving much bigger problems than you are. Like, it's just as much work to think bigger as it is trying to do one house at a time or whatever. But it is important to do a deal small and then get big, because there are different problems at different levels.
The 10X Rule made a big impact on me too.
Did you? Okay.
Just that idea of like, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. I've heard that quote many times. And the 10X Rule was like, well, just 10X your goal and then ask the question, how do you get that done? Was very much like, oh, that's a great question. Like, I just made a YouTube video or a video the other day for social media. And in there, I mentioned, like, what does that actually mean for a real estate investor? And I said, well, if you were to go, I'm going to try to, get $20,000 a month in passive income over the next decade, so I can retire 10 years from now. That's fine. That's a good question to ask and answer. But what if you had to do it in the next 6 months? That's a better question to ask. How would you get $20,000 a month? Let me ask you on the spot.
Ooh, I love it.
Mark, what would you do if right now you had to, gun to your head, like, had to have $20K a month in passive income, or mostly passive income, within the next 6 months? What would you do? What strategy would you pursue?
I think in the short term, you can coach and you could teach and you can sell online courses, right? Like, and I think that's a quick way that I would pivot. I would put myself in a room, as we were talking before, and shoot a course or something to the help. But that ain't gonna get you there. It will get you there, but over time, as good as you are a marketer. I think if I had to go 20,000 in passive income, there's so much creative finance out there right now. There's 10,000 baby boomers retiring each day. I think those business owners that have been doing everything, I think there's a lot of opportunity within business.
I do too.
Real estate's just slower, and it's not as stable as we talk about it. It is very stable, but it's also slower. It's not every year is going to be 2020, and we're going to be in 2024 now, and so I think businesses, I would attack a business. I'd figure out the ones, Google search it, what are the best ones to perform right now, and try to figure out a great way to market it.
I love that you said that. I think that's a great answer. It's different than the answer I said. Like, when I was writing the video, I was like, I don't know, I'd probably go, how would I buy 10 Airbnbs in the next 6 months that would make $2,000 a month a piece? Well, and then you start answering that question. I love that you brought it that way. Cam, what would you do? 10,000, you had to make $20,000 a month in the next 6 months. Gun to your head.
Gun to my head. $20,000 a month, next 6 months.
It doesn't have to be real estate. It can be anything, by the way.
It doesn't have to be.
Besides anything legal. It can be anything legal.
Dang it. Man, that's where I was going to go with this.
and moral.
And,
Dang it. There goes my OnlyFans idea. Okay.
Yeah.
20 grand a month in the next 6 months, starting from nothing.
Yep.
I would go the short-term, mid-term rental route.
Okay.
And I would try and buy as many of those as I could over the next 6 months. I would bring in partners to help pay down debt so they would cash flow more, and I would give them a piece of the equity, a large piece of the equity, and I would get more of the cash flow.
Yeah, I love that. So what we all just did, we all had different solutions to that same problem, but it was a bigger problem. And then some people might be listening to, well, I can't sell, the course idea. Actually, I think that's a brilliant idea, sell a course, but people are like, well, I'm not a real estate investor. How can I do a course?
Yeah.
You could learn marketing and go partner with a guy like Mark or Cam and make them the face of it, split it 50-50, you run the back end, and all of a sudden now you're making $20,000 a month because you have credibility. It's like, I'm not saying that anybody should go out there and do that, but the point being, when you ask a bigger 10x question, you get a bigger 10x answer. And those answers exist. So anyway, all that to say, Grant Cardone made a big impact on my life. And I started Open Door Capital right after I interviewed him.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, shoot, I see what Grant's doing here. He's solving big problems by asking big questions. I can do the exact same thing. And I've just been following his model ever since. Yeah, less Scientology, but following his model.
The guy's a great marketer.
Yeah, he's a great
I
marketer,
can't knock
man.
him.
Yeah. He understood that concept of build a brand so that people love you or hate you, doesn't matter, but people know you, and some people love you, and you can do whatever you want. He understood that model.
Well, then not only that, but think about the guy's age.
Yeah.
How because you're performing at that
65, I think, maybe
65.
Yeah. He's performing at a high level.
Sure.
A very high level, right?
He's got some peptides in
He
him.
definitely has
He's peptides.
Yeah, but he's crushing it. And it's also reassuring to people listening to the show going, well, I'm in my 40s or I'm in my 50s. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
It's never too late. I just learned this the other day. I made a video about this as well because I'm making a video. But there's a guy named Alfred. This is years and years ago. Alfred is 55 years old, and he's the guy that invented dynamite. And so he's 55. He's making loads of money, super successful. Then his brother dies. His brother dies, but the newspaper, this is hundreds of years ago, the newspaper gets it wrong. They think that Alfred died. So they write the obituary for this guy, Alfred, and they write it, the whole obituary on, and they called it The Merchant of Death is Dead. That's the headline on the newspaper.
Oh, whoa.
The Merchant. So he reads this, he's like, oh shoot, my entire life, my legacy that I'm leaving is to be the merchant of death, that I made millions off of hurting people. So Alfred, whose last name is Nobel, ended up changing his entire life and started the Nobel Peace Prize and changed his legacy. So the lesson being, you're never too late to change your legacy.
That's an amazing story.
Isn't
I've
that a
never
great
heard
story?
that before.
Yeah, it's your story. Look it up on Wikipedia.
Dang.
I've used Wikipedia before. That's true, but
Everything's true on that.
Yes.
Yeah, there is some debate whether that newspaper article ever existed, but that story is most people agree that
story.
probably existed. And either way, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobel Peace Prize was founded by the guy who
cool.
invented dynamite. Yeah. He just didn't want to be known as the guy who invented dynamite.
I mean, there's so many amazing stories like that people start late. The Walmart guy, didn't he start the nickel and dime store and when he was in his 40s or 50s?
Yeah, he was late. Yeah, KFC was 60 something.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Colonel.
The Colonel. Yeah.
Yeah, I seen that. You always see the garage or the Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk is probably a special thing, but I don't know how you would leverage PayPal all the way to the
to what
basically
he's
to
done.
zero.
But Grant Cardone, he posted a video the other day, and I think he was in his late 40s of him doing one of his very first videos.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And it was so fascinating that was only.
Yeah.
Wow. He's 20 something years or 15 years older than me in that video.
Yeah. He's still doing it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, I want to know more about the real estate investing as you got into that.
Let's do it.
But before we get there, let's get to today's show sponsor. So on this show, 100% of the ad revenue that comes in goes directly to the hands of a charity that our guest wants to support. So where should we send all the money from today's show?
Yeah, man. I really have a lot of support for Back the Blue. So I think there's just such a demand, for everything that happened in Minneapolis, obviously. And man, I was in Minneapolis at a Twins game. They're just so understaffed. I think they're 50% staffed there. Wow. I mean, they got huge. These guys just are protecting themselves out there and trying to keep the streets safe as they can. There's not enough support going to those guys, and they leverage their lives every day, I don't think, for enough pay.
Yeah. All right, man. We'll do that. All right. Well, today's episode is brought to you by the Better Life Tribe. Specifically, we're just going to give you a free gift. If you're not a tribe member, that's great. I'm going to give you a free gift, and maybe someday you become one. So here's a free gift. Just go to my Instagram, Beardy Brandon, and shoot me a DM. And in that DM, all I want you to write is 4 letters, CLAC, Kelk. And I'm going to send you an actual, like the rental property calculator that we built for tribe members. It's really good. It'll help you analyze rental properties in under a minute. I think you're going to love it. So again, go to my Instagram, Beardy Brandon, and just DM me the word Kelk, and I'll get you hooked up right away. All right, real estate. So you started learning the lingo.
Yes.
Started learning the processes, kind of reading, listening to people tell you should buy no more than 32 units or above, or Brandon saying you should buy an ugly duplex. What'd you do?
Yeah. So anyway, this goes really back to my business. I needed to figure out now to go from 5 million. How do I get above really a $10 million construction company? And I had to leave that's kind of where you start leaving residential work, and you have to start entering commercial work, which is just really a hard space when you're used to doing residential all the time. Yeah. So anyway, I realized that, all right, I need to start developing. I got to figure this out. So there were some guys out of Vegas. They were up in North Dakota, oil boom. There wasn't much going on in Vegas, so they bought some land and we were developing for these guys, townhomes. And after I think it was 2012, it was probably 2015, 16, these guys got burnt out in North Dakota. They're like, hey, it's getting better in Vegas. This isn't working. Buy the rest of the development from us. So I was like, I didn't have a lot of money at that point. I was like, well, what do you guys want to do here? And he's like, I don't know, just figure it out and we'll kind of seller finance. This to me was all new lingo because I didn't get to that book yet. I'm just trying to figure out duplexes or 32 units. And so I'm like, all right, here's some cash down and I'll buy some of the other units, get a loan on them. That were sitting. So we were trying to sell them. My wife is an active real estate agent. Mm-hmm. She's trying to sell them. I'm building them. This was great. We're working for them. But now they're leaving the picture. Now we're now we got to be the money guys. Mm-hmm. So now you got to figure out, okay, how to finance this stuff. And I remember going to the bank and just asking these guys from Vegas, hey, this is what I need, for seller finance or kind of carry me through this deal. And they actually acted like the bank on most of it. We ended up buying out a few of the single family homes and we rented them out. So we kind of kept them. So we were
Amazing.
I was like, geez, we're doing it. We're landlords now. We're developers now. And then I just mapped out. These were 5 plexes we were building. We were just selling them. So it was, we were still generating revenue with each one. And we built another, it was probably 80 units in this whole development. We had 50 we needed to build out. But in development, your money is always made in the back end, the last 20, 30 units you really make. And so we kind of continued just building and selling. And suddenly the loans were getting down there and we're like, well, how do I and then I started hearing words like syndicating and this. And so I was like, well, what happens if we hold on to the 22 units we have left, rentals, and then roll them up? Because I needed cash to go do something else. Yeah. You're always in the hunt for more cash. So then I did my first syndication. I had 22 units there that I just rolled together. So it was my first development, my first syndication. And this is all kind of in 2021, 2020 area during COVID. And started figuring out how to raise money because money's always your problem as the developer. Yeah. You need to continually make more money. And especially, I was a guy that never wanted to sell anything. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great if you're great at raising money. It's not great if you need more money to keep going. Yeah. So, anyway, we kept these 22 units, still have them today, and we raised money for them. And so they're, our cost basis is $210. They're worth $270. So it's great. They're an easy investment.
What did you learn in that first syndication? By the way, could you define, what is syndication for those who don't know? And then what did you learn in that process of getting started with that?
Yeah, so syndication basically is the ability to raise. I felt like me having these townhomes and learning all this education about passive investing and things people were risk adverse. I was more risk adverse than they were. So they had money. They wanted to put money into the deal. I was like, hey, how can I let my friends into this deal? How can I let friends, family, whatever, you need to reach out to right away. How can they invest beside me and still get a deal done here? And so, they invested beside me and I acted as the GP. Mm-hmm. So I had all the equity in the deal. Yeah. So I was actually I had cheap financing on the deal, so I was just rolling my equity out while they roll equity in, $50,000 a time. So they're able to basically have zero or actual mailbox money is what I usually call syndication. They can just relax. Yeah. It's my job for this thing to perform. And if it doesn't perform, I don't get paid. And you're the first one to get paid on the deal, basically.
Yeah, I tell my investors that all the time. It's probably been my best sales pitch for raising capital is I don't get paid unless you get paid. And I even take it so far because I make a lot of good money off book royalties and other stuff, so I don't need the money.
Yeah.
So I don't even take I donate my salary. And it's like it's a marketing thing because it sounds really good, but it also makes me like this has to work. Otherwise, I'm wasting like a decade of my life. But like my investors love that because I'm just like I don't make anything. This is a complete waste of my 30s if this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so like this will work because like it has to. It'll make me $1 billion if it works, and if it doesn't work, it's gonna just be a 10-year waste of time.
Right.
So like I like that about syndications. It really aligns interest really well, and you got to be careful when you pick a syndicator. Make sure it aligns. I mean, some people buy airplanes and helicopters off off of their syndication like up front before the deal works out well.
Yeah.
So you just got to be careful of like what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, how many syndications have went sideways now in the last couple of years because there's no 3% rates anymore?
We're gonna see a lot more of
and
that,
they charged a lot of upfront fees, and some of these greater guys are great salesmen and don't tell you that they made a bunch of money and now they're left holding the bag. And a lot of people are going to lose equity.
Yep.
And a lot of, I think, investors, there could be good investors, are probably shy now. They're just sitting at 5% money. So.
It's harder to raise
we know
money.
you're out there.
Yeah, it's
you're
hard.
listening to this.
Yeah, stop sitting. It's hard to raise money though right now.
Yeah.
Like it's for sure harder than it's ever been.
Right. I know I've heard you talking before that raising money, I think it's all about alignment with investors.
Yeah.
You're not making money on the deal. You're hoping that this works out in the long run. And it will, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just real estate is time. But I think including some of the businesses, whether it's the management companies or like if I leverage my construction company, my development company as a holding company and align with some investors, being able to invest on that side as well as the real estate side. So basically mixing the cash flow of business in with the cash flow of real estate, stability of real estate is really an alignment process. So I've been kind of going through the holding company process, letting key investors in there to help the syndication side because it really aligns with them.
Smart. We just started because again cash flow is super hard right now because the interest rates are so low, right?
Yeah.
So but everybody wants cash flow, and we're competing with you can go get a treasury bond for 5%. So people are like, well, why would I invest with you at no cash flow when long term we're gonna beat the stock market and beat treasury bonds, but it doesn't matter, right? So we're actually doing a new model right now, and we're going to do 20 to 30% of our fund that we're raising for right now. We're going to put into hard money notes. So we're investing in hard money, which produces right now the hard money rates are like 12, 13, 14%.
Wow.
And so we're lending out 12, 13, 14% through a partner who's running the whole thing, a hard money company. So that way, if you figure you're getting plus points, right? There's 12, 13% interest plus points ends up being more like 20% interest if you add it all together. So if a quarter of our fund is that, it's like getting 5% interest cash flow right away. Now there's no upside on it, but the upside's on the real estate on the back end. So by incorporating, we're doing mobile homes, self-storage, and notes, like hard money all in one fund. Now you get cash flow and long-term equity. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I probably shouldn't even say that publicly because now more people are going to just copy what I just did. But I think it's going to be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Well, it's cash flow. It's hurting right now everywhere. Everyone's focused on operations. It's like, how tight can I get operations? Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're not a good operator right now, you're not going to be around long, I don't think. But if you are a very good operator,
there's no room for mediocrity anymore in the market.
There's not.
You have to be great.
You do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said that. I think probably I've been listening to your stuff, of course, lately, but it's like, it's so true. Like we're so focused on operations within the businesses and the real estate side. It's like, you got to meet weekly. Like the real estate is a business. At the end of the day, too, treat it like one.
Yeah. Remember back in like 2012 when you just like bought a house and it made you a bunch of money? Like those.
Is that what it was?
Those are the good days, man.
I miss those.
Yeah, you just buy anything. Like you couldn't finance it. There was no loans, but anything you bought was just like, hey, cash flow. This is it. Money. This is great.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really nice back then. But every era's got their own problems, right? Today, like. Yeah, well, today's got a lot of problems, but like for a while it was, you couldn't get the financing, but you could find deals. Then you could get the financing all day long, but there were no deals. Now today there's no financing and no deals, so now you're just double screwed. But we're making it work.
Yeah, I think the key for anyone new listening to this, I mean, it's like Pace Morby's obviously taken over the world, but it's like creative. Everyone's got to be creative. If you're buying a business, you're buying real estate, you have to be creative. There's almost zero way it makes sense for a baby boomer's price to make any kind of sense.
No.
Unless you have a lot of cash on the sideline that you're willing to bet on. But I think there's a lot of creative finance, and that's the main thing that we're using. I literally bought 80 units. And I creatively financed. The guy his DSCR was in jeopardy with the bank, meaning his mortgage was, less than the payment, or the NOI. The property was actually producing an income. So he was like a 1-to-1 and starting to drop below that. So then he's delivering checks to the properties.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of ran like a slumlord. He wasn't running it correctly. And so I formulated every building to have X amount of construction, included myself as a developer fee on each unit coming in at 50% equity, which was just me just doing all the paperwork basically. Yeah. And I own 50% of now 80 units that, we creatively, and I have his properties actually performing. Yeah, so he gave up 50% of his equity, but
he didn't lose
now,
it.
Now he didn't lose his properties because he was in jeopardy of that. So is he smart or is he dumb?
Maybe both.
Yeah. Well,
how did you find that property?
Social media.
Social media.
Yeah, just threw out a story. Hey, looking to buy apartments. If you know anyone looking to sell or partner on a deal, and gave the kid $1,500 and literally added $3 million to my balance sheet.
That's amazing.
Appreciate that.
And how did you negotiate that to because I've sat in a lot of creative finance meetings or negotiations, and it's always so tough. So did you lead with that, or did you lead with the price, and then you just through talking with him, you guys came up with that? Like how did you figure all that out?
Yeah, I think you're just trying to solve someone's problem. Like I think that's like the better you can get it, and this isn't any conversation, but I was getting good with that. So I was like just trying to and he's like, well, I really want to own everything. He's like, I'm probably gonna have to sell some of it to keep like the good one, right? Or whatever, the good apartment. And it's like, well, why don't we keep them all? But they all need, I'm in construction, I need windows and roofs and they need this stuff, and that way they can operate. And I was showing him, I was like, well, here's your 50% equity, and then here's what your 50% equity be in 10 years, because I'm getting you a 3.6 note, and he's like, baby boomers lost out, I think, a lot in this. Like they should have took out some debt. Yeah. And a lot of them just still own everything cash. It's probably great now, but they should have had a cheap loan and leveraged it. And anyway, so he's going to have way more equity in 10 years after I refinance fix these properties up, because they really weren't worth anything. The NOI wasn't. I'm like, your properties are all underperforming. Yeah. These things are all going to need money. Some other developer's going to come in here and just buy them from you, but I'll keep you in the deal at 50%, and we'll own these together.
It's actually a pretty brilliant model. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So he was winning, and I was winning, and I was willing to come in and operate them as they should be, and he was willing to come on board with that. And we actually sold one of the buildings for $1.1 million in profit. So we split that too. That's $550,000, and then we still got another, 68 units on that. So we bought we bought 24 more. Yeah. So anyway, it just shows you that creative, and everyone's got a problem out there. Yep. I mean, you can see plenty of apartments that need work. Yeah. I guarantee that those things are going to be in jeopardy in the next 5-10 years. There's all these apartments from the 80s. Because I was whatever, no one could afford anything. Kind of like today. Now we're building there's most building permits for apartments, 1 million some units coming online. Wow. In the next year and a half, all from COVID, basically. And so that's going to hold the rental rates down again, So it's just, you can find a lot of apartments in the 80s where these guys are looking to exit because they're starting to be a problem. And if I can help solve the construction, that's what I learned when I was a young kid learning next to dad. So I learned the construction aspect, which helps me today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I love that.
Cool, man.
I like that.
All right. Off the wall question here, but I like this one. I got a list of these. I'll just admit it. I saw a TikTok or Instagram video. I think it was Instagram video of I've got 6 questions for you. And they were all really good questions. So I wrote them down here, and I'm not going to ask you all of them, but I got a couple that I really want to ask you. Imagine you have a chance to revisit a moment from your past. What moment would you choose, and what would you do differently?
This is when I was in business. Early years, I missed 6-7 years where I was just the solopreneur grinding. I didn't need to do that to myself. All I needed to do was leverage other people's time and figure out how to run a business. Yeah. I wish I would have got curious way before that hospital visit and figured out how to buy back your time if you need to learn how to do processes, which I didn't want to do. Just figure out a person who likes doing them. And man, that changed my life. And change his business.
Very cool. Next question. You receive a letter in the mail today. It's from your future self. What do you want it to say?
Oh my God, my future self. Dang. How far in the future?
I don't know. Pick a date.
How far in the future?
Tomorrow.
Oh man. Well,
Buy Bitcoin.
yeah,
It's coming back.
Yeah, I heard a lot of things about sports betting. But I think it's just it always comes back to thinking bigger, and like my problems are pretty small when I get into rooms with guys like you, especially. So, kind of the keep pushing motivational type thing is kind of what I would write to myself, because I get in my own head, and I don't know if every entrepreneur has this, but like I get in my own space, and then now you're like doubting yourself or confidence level, whatever,
I've
things.
never felt that way.
No, not at all. Never.
Imposter syndrome.
Not every entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's like, gosh, and it's like, so I think just motivating myself and really thinking bigger.
All right, last of the random ones. I'm going to give this one to Cam as well. Both of you are going to answer this one. If someone gave you a box of everything you ever lost, what's the first thing you would look for?
Ooh, that's good.
Not that we remember everything we ever lost, but everything you ever lost in a box. What are you looking for in that box?
Jeez, I don't know. I'm thinking, what's in this box? Like, you got something, Cam?
Ooh, there is one thing that I don't know if I lost it or just misplaced it, but my grandpa, when I was like 8 years old, gave me a Bowie knife, I think is what it's called. And I thought that I had saved it. And for the last 4 years have been looking for it, because I packed up all my stuff. We moved to Denver, and I remember packing up my room, and I put it in a place, and it's not in that place anymore. And so I'd love to find that. I'd love to find that. He passed away about 2 years ago, so I'd love to find that Bowie knife.
I'll say one while you're thinking. But I was on a canoe trip. I was in 5th grade, and I hated it. I was like really chunky, really overweight, really out of shape. Could not carry the canoe, and like it was a horrible canoe trip up in the Boundary Waters, Minnesota. Okay. And I got made fun of. There were a bunch of bullies on the trip that just like mocked me. I had no friends. It was like just a horrible week of my life. But the guy who was like the camp guide, he was like this old guy, kind of grandpa character. He saw that, and he made me whittle around the fire this stick, this like long 6 foot stick with like wolf faces in it, and it was amazing. I saw him working on it for hours, and then he gave it to me, and I had it for a minute, and then one of the bullies took it.
No.
Yeah, and went in my tent, found my underwear, put underwear on the stick, and then ran around the woods, and then threw the whole thing.
Oh.
So the thing I would want is my underwear back.
But who is this bully? Let's track him down.
This is a bully.
Yeah, we're gonna kill this kid. That was my. I want that. I want that stick back, not the underwear.
This is gonna seem real weird, but I from age 6 to 14, we had these concrete. So as a concrete guy, you learn these concrete tools that you love. You use them every day. These are the tools. So I had this mag. And a mag would be something you would smooth the concrete out with, and before you broom it. And I had this mag for 12 years, and then someone ran over with the skid steer and mangled. But this thing gets more narrow because it's made of magnesium. It wears, so it gets very thin. It's like a little float. You just hold it with your hand, not a big deal. But I had this thing for years, and then they destroyed the whole bucket of tools. That was my concrete tools. And I remember how crushed I was. And it was something super stupid, because you just go to the store and buy another one. And it's you're starting over. It's this
there's an emotional attachment.
I was gosh, there's so much time with this mag and this concrete tools, but maybe that all happened because it wanted me to do more in life. I don't know.
If you could go back, would you still start the construction company, or would you go right into real estate?
Yeah, I think the construction business is important to me because you like to do what you're passionate about. And I did it my whole life. I wish I knew more about business and real estate. I really didn't, but I do love my construction company still today, because I like talking construction. I like talking concrete. I like everything there is about it. So no, I think I'd stay with construction and keep developing real estate. Now I get to do the best of both worlds in my eyes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Where'd you meet your wife?
Oh, well, there is a downtown bar called Sledsters, and it was ladies' night, and also happened to be my softball night. So I was the typical guy in '09 that would bleach his hair and had 2 earrings.
Oh, so
Do you have
cool.
a little shell necklace?
Oh, no, I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far. I had like DC shoes though, because those were big, and I wasn't a skater, but I was a construction concrete guy, and my wife is like probably more into like Prince Charming type guys. And I don't know,
It
somehow
was the double earrings. That's what got her.
and the DC shoes. That's what I tell her. And she's like, you kind of came over to our table and talked about your DUI that you just got. So it's like, I wasn't necessarily like Prince Charming.
You're a winner
but
right there.
Yeah, I lived a block within her, and like we both lived a block apart, whatever. And so got her number, and like she hit her up for like 3 months and never said anything. And yeah, anyway, the story is not as romantic as you would think. There was no long canoe trips. But yeah, we finally had a first date and never left each other.
What do you love about your wife?
She's everything I'm not. So I'm kind of a spaz as far as entrepreneur goes. I like to do a lot of different things and I like to get deals done. And she loves to like me to do that, but like she'll operate like behind the scenes. She doesn't want to see a camera. She doesn't want to. So she's just like everything that I'm weak at, she does really well at. Like she likes the same thing and like processes. Yeah.
Does she still actively work in your real estate and construction businesses?
So she's a realtor. So she's just getting used to the commercial lingo.
Gotcha.
And she has it more relaxed than she, we're not relying on her income. We'll just put it that way. Yeah. So we have that flexibility now. So she likes to make supper. Like I get knack that I don't cook enough. I'm waiting for you to open this daycare business. So then I can go on a date night with my wife and have it planned. Because that's the problem. Having 3 kids, it's just like something's going on, or the kids got cheer, or the kids got this, and every life gets in the way, and then you're not doing any date nights with the wife.
Well, I was going to open the date night business, but then I called one of my friends, Cam, who decided to poo-poo the idea live on a podcast.
I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, you lie like through your teeth, and you say, yes, I'm sending you $400.
I didn't know that was what was happening. I would have.
That's funny. For those who don't know what we're talking about, I interviewed Noah Kagan on the podcast a few weeks back, and Noah made me come up with a business idea on the podcast, and then validate it by calling somebody who might buy. So I called Cam here, and Cam was very excited about the idea, but then I knew you weren't going to buy because I knew you had just got that nanny. I know. Yeah. So I chose, I probably should have called someone else, but I was like, who do I call it really quick? Cam. And then you were like, it's a great idea, but I don't need it.
I love the idea. I love the idea about that you have to do it. It's a use it or lose it. Everything about that idea is great.
It's a cool idea.
It's $1 million business that you made in an hour.
Yeah, it was a $1 million business weekend. So go listen to that episode. It was episode I don't know of the podcast. So, but it was one. Just type in a Better Life podcast. Noah Kagan, Kagan. If you want to listen to that episode, it was fire. Noah's a character. I love that dude.
Yeah.
All right, man. Tips for working with your spouse. What do you got for those people who are in your shoes?
Yeah, I would space. So make sure you're not put them in a space where they're accountable. Like I try to leave my wife out of the accountability. She helps facilitate certain areas where there's problems. So I detect the problem, facilitate, and then like let her do her thing. If we work together and we're reliant on her selling the house to make income to make the bills, it seems like that didn't work very well. So if you guys can get accountability in other areas of the company, if you have that option, obviously we have some vertical of companies, so that helps us. But yeah, man, I try not to talk about it at home. But how do you not talk about business at home? It's like, and she yells at me about this, like no phone at the table, and like, it's like I get it, and but then she kind of has respect for what I'm doing. Like you're getting all these deals done, and it takes a lot of effort, and you're on your phone all the time, and so I try to be more conscious of that. I use the focus mode on my iPhone a lot in 24. And I've also, along with Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, I don't check my emails anymore. I have my assistant kind of orchestrate everything. So just reducing notifications overall and give each other space. Don't try to hit date night if Brandon can come up with that business. Like spend time, enjoy each other, because if you involve business, it's not gonna end up great for you.
taking Heather to Spago tonight.
Are you?
Have you been there yet? It's at the Four Seasons, I think. No, it's at Four Seasons, right?
I think
Spago.
have. Yeah,
I've not been there.
We have been there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one restaurant I feel like in South Maui.
Is that on the top level?
I don't know, but I know it's
We
like
ate there last night.
It's like the fancy restaurant over there.
Yeah.
I hear it's good.
We ate there twice.
Twice?
Yeah.
Wow,
Well,
it's that
it's
good.
$500 for two. We know that.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I only got
that's
one
not
carrot,
cheap.
so I was kind of pissed last night.
Yeah, it's a fancy.
It's fancy.
It's gonna be good. Date
Yeah.
night tonight,
Yeah.
and I have Brielle watching the kids. So we're-
Amazing.
Oh, dang.
all right. Here's a little personal question. It's about business or personal, but it's a intimate question. We'll call it that way. What's an area of your life, first of all, that you're just really strong about? Like you're really good about doing. Like people would say like, oh yeah, like Marc's got this thing figured out. And then the opposite. What is something that you just know that you're weak in right now?
So I follow a theme, and I have like an email subscription called Unfollow the Herd. And so I'm very good at creatively finding opportunities. I see opportunity where others people see problems. And I help people take action. And so I'm always, I think my strength is always finding an opportunity. Like there's so many opportunities out there. Like people sometimes like the blindfold must be on. It's like, there's nothing going on. There's no perfect deals that are penciling with 9% cash on cash. It's like, that's a dream. It just doesn't happen. I'm sorry. And there's no businesses that are evaluated at, they want 6X for the multiple. And it's like, okay. So anyway, I kind of tell these beginners and I script Unfollow the Herd into their brains and show them how I'm doing these deals, like literally at a little bit higher level. And maybe they're 5 years behind me, maybe 10 years, maybe 2 years, but I try to show them that there's opportunity. And I'm, of course, a little more risk adverse, so I can see that opportunity. So I'd say that's one of my big strengths. What am I weak at right now? Man, I'm not an operations guy. And I think in a time like this where operations is such key that I need to find more and more really good operators to grow my business. And I think that's just going to be the key to things going forward.
So in your businesses, because you said you got 50 employees and how have you found great people to work for you?
Yeah, I think social media can detect those people. So far in North Dakota, they're not as social media heavy, but they're all happy that I'm on with Brandon. Yeah. So I appreciate that. But yeah,
The whole state?
the whole state. Yeah, everyone loves me.
Yeah, they love me. It's like they love me in North Dakota.
Yeah, the Midwest.
Yeah, it's like I'm famous in Japan. It's really great.
But I think finding those people, you just like people bounce off other people's energy, and I think that's really what people detect. And if they like working in it's all about you want good operators, you have to have a great culture.
Yeah.
And that's something like the culture drives the business. If it's a miserable place to work and it's like not cool and whatever, it's like people don't want to work there. They just don't. They don't want to work 50 hours a week. They really don't. Like as we keep getting old, the hours are going to go down, and we're going to need more people to do our stuff. So if the culture can be really fun, we just try to stress on that. It costs money to have culture at a business. You got to do events together and spend time together and be around all these people. If you have as many employees as you, it gets harder. You have to
Especially remote workers get really hard.
Yeah. I don't even know. So I think just keep driving the culture to get better operators, and that's I think almost culture trumps operators at the end of the day. But I need to get better.
How do you build culture in your business? What are some ways? Yeah.
You're doing internal things. You're doing Super Bowl parties that, would be coming up. You're doing thanks or Friendsgiving and that type of thing. You're doing, we send out a message. We have our GM does a message to the group, or say Brandon would send out a private message to through Slick Text or some of these CRMs. And you just try to be a person and try to have fun. Or I think it's not an easy thing, but that's some of the ways that we do it. We try to stay in front of everyone, have fun, and there's some concrete guys out there, so we'll try to record them, do some video, do some different things that make it fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's your portfolio consist of today?
So I have about 150 multifamily units, townhomes, different things like that, and we have I have a thing called luxury storage, which is. I'd love to dive into deeper.
Please. Yes.
And luxury storage is kind of where I'm growing, and a lot of the reason why I would get on this podcast to help share the word of it. So it's basically larger self-storage units. But I think, as we all know, especially with 1 million apartment building permits online, we all know that housing is most unaffordable and housing is super dense. It's almost like Hawaii is going to be. I think that's going to happen in the States. It already is, right? Like you don't have a yard, you don't have a garage. I think we were talking to some of the Uber drivers, like to have a parking spot for your car is like a big deal.
Yeah.
Or like you got to give up air conditioning.
Yep.
You want the parking spot or air conditioning? You can't have it all. And I think that's just the way people are going to find affordability in the future. So I've kind of been preaching luxury storage, which is going to be a larger storage unit, and it's going to be like a flex industrial space. So it's going to be HVAC. So it could be an 18 by 50 unit. It'll be 16 feet tall, so you could fit a semi in there, whatever. It'll have 2 lights and an outlet and basically an automatic garage door opener. And so it'll be guys like small business owners that need a place to store something. But it'll be a unit, doesn't have a bathroom. Shouldn't be running your business. You're not going to put a sign above your storage unit. But it is going to give you a place to have HVAC, have all your stuff in there, and just have a different style. And so it's larger self-storage, essentially, right? Like, and I think as housing gets more and more dense, these businesses like compete for space. Like they just need some. I have businesses rent 10 storage units, you know, and they just keep a forklift there with their flooring in there, and that's what they do. But there's just not a lot of flex industrial space that's smaller. Yeah. So I'm not talking about these mega buildings. We're doing the smaller spaces.
Yeah, it's like industrial. It's like warehouse industrial, but on a small level. It's almost like tiny homes for real estate, like for residential, but it's industrial warehouse, but for tiny ones.
Yeah, it's true. Cool. Yeah, so it's like instead of like a big warehouse where you're going to have a triple net lease at $6 a foot, whatever, we're getting double that. Yeah. Plus, we're paying all the utilities. You can swipe it on your Amex. We can treat it. We can adjust the rents on the fly based on occupancy. So if we're 99% occupancy, like we are one that we just built, then we start driving the rents up because you can change the rents every 60 days, right? Like just like a self-storage unit. A lot of these REITs, I love self-storage because there's no regulation on it. In multifamily, you get in different states with regulation. I think things are just going to become more regulated over time, and it's going to go to the tenants' favor because it's so unaffordable. Yeah. And so unfortunately, that's what I don't love about multifamily, what I learned. So I've started doing more storage and leaning into storage development. And so I'm going to take a luxury storage brand and build it not only in the Dakotas, but in the Sunbelt markets. And we're partnering people. So if you are interested in luxury storage, find me on Instagram, marc.kuhn.mac, and just DM me the word luxury storage. Actually, you can DM me luxury storage on any platform, and I will figure out how we can partner or you can invest in one of our luxury storage facilities.
Do you have any cities picked out specifically where you're like, this is going to be an amazing spot to do this?
Yeah. So Rapid City, we're in the Midwest right now. So obviously heated units. We're doing North Dakota, which would be Grand Forks, Fargo. We like Bismarck. Those would be like the 3 main towns. And then Sioux Falls and your Rapid City markets. We really love those markets. I think even working south to Indianapolis and Kansas City, like they're really good markets for this. Yeah. And we've gotten told that multiple times because we get a lot of attention from this. Okay. But we also want to get into the Sunbelt markets. Like they're selling $500,000 condo shops for like Toy Barn, if you're familiar with that. But it's like you park your car in there and it's like a little hangout man cave, but it's like an 18 by 50 space that might have like 2 levels in the back, and you park your couple Ferraris in there, and they're getting a lot of money for these spaces. So we want to open it up not just from car guys, but we want to open this up as flex space, small businesses, but we still want to treat it as self-storage so we will try to hold the whole property. Which is getting challenging because you need to raise money in order to do that. So we may have to sell off individual condo units, but the goal would be to continue to roll up 30, 40, 50 of these facilities. So instead of selling them at a 6.5 cap, we could roll them up to a life insurance company at 4 or 4.5 cap.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How do you market that? Like, who are you marketing to? Is it just people drive by and it's like flex industrial? What are you saying to get the right people to be interested in luxury storage?
We've been navigating. Obviously, we're using Google and Facebook ads and that type of thing because so far, both of our facilities, whether it's in Fargo or Grand Forks, they're not on the main roads. We're like and I think if you're good enough on online marketing, Google storage in any market and see who comes up, it's very easy to get in the front of them ads and fill up your space. What I also love about storage, though, you fill up the space. People fill up an 18 by 50. Well, they ain't moving out tomorrow. Like they'll tell you, like my buddies come to me, I'm going to just put my boat in there for a couple months. I just need some space in the garage. and they've been there for a year. It's like, and they're willing to pay the $600-700 a month to do it on their Amex or whatever, write it off on their business. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool that you're working to businesses because it's just another expense. It's just another few $100s a month, whatever.
Yeah, and there's toys and RVs. Like I thought that's what it was going to be, but it's all these small businesses and flex spaces, and people just need cheap space. They don't necessarily want to rent out 20,000 square feet. Yeah, and that's not for everybody. I
wonder if I could put a studio, like, because you got power in there, and you got. I was like, I wonder if you could put like a podcast studio. In
Yeah.
Just come over and record.
I got to get like more creative in my content, so like I'm trying to figure out what to do in storage units.
Yeah.
I love
Maybe
that.
I'll put my podcast studio in a in a luxury storage unit.
It's a cool idea, man. I mean, what's it cost to build one of those versus like a normal self storage? You know the difference? Like, I mean, is that significantly more?
Really, all you're adding. So this is how this all happened. I built a building that was. It was 48 by 184. I don't know why I know those numbers, but anyway, these are 13 by 48 deep units, one overhead door, and I heated half because I was like skeptical. I was like, does anyone need storage this big?
Yeah.
And then I did the other half unheated. Well, I rented out the half unheated at $200, and I rented out the other half at like $250. Well, the side that was heated all filled up. I was like, $50 more? They're willing to pay that much more for heated? And then so I was like, it's only $5,000 or $6,000 for the furnace to heat the other side. So boom, heated them. And I actually doubled the rent and went to $350, all filled up. I was like, shit, people need climate controlled heating.
This is it.
In North Dakota, it is very cold, so I get it. But in Phoenix, is also very hot, so they need it as well. And so that was my trial and effort. And I just kept building. I just kept building buildings. We're up to like 60,000 square feet in a terrible demographic market, by the way. And we're 99% full, and we're building another one in Fargo, which is better demographics, growing market. And we're about 40% through the build. So we got a wait list going already on that market.
Wow.
So, and we have a facility in Sioux Falls that we're already in contract to build in the spring. And then now we're attacking Rapid City right now. We just go under an LOI and land.
Brilliant, man.
So
I really like that. This is a cool strategy.
Yeah,
I love hearing kind of like new takes on, like, it's not a brand new, you're not reinventing the wheel, but you're just doing a different take based on what the market needs. And that's how real estate investing works.
Yeah. So it's a little different take than self-storage, but it's still treated as self-storage. We love the flexibility in leasing because in self-storage, it's just a battle of revenue and occupancy. Yeah. You're just fighting the two, and you really want to be down at 85. Like, I should be jacking all the rents $100 a month, but you want to be nice too. Yeah. And these REITs are brilliant when they come to leasing up a self-storage facility, because that's usually the hardest part. It could take years to fill up self-storage. Yeah. But they rent down. They said, oh, it's a 10 by 10 unit. Oh, we'll rent it out for $10 or $10 a month. Brand new facility, lease it out to you. Well, that's the market. That's the street rate. They just want to fill up the facility. They do it. They know that people are going to move in, and then they quadruple the rents to market rate. And 70% of the tenants stick around. Yeah. Because it's sticky. So anyway.
Very cool, man.
Yeah. I'm passionate about luxury storage.
Dude, it's exciting.
The luxury storage guy.
All right, dude. Well, we got to start moving towards the last kind of 3 segments of the show. But before I get there, I like to ask a question. Anything that I did not ask you that you never get asked that you're like, I just wish they would ask me this question? Anything that we didn't cover in your life?
No, man. We hit it. We hit my whole life.
Love it.
I feel like
I feel like you just went to the proctologist.
I feel like we're at the therapist. Like, I got it all off my chest. I feel good now.
When did you start building these luxury self-storage units?
So 2020.
2020?
When I started, just started introducing to the space.
That's awesome.
And now it's like, I was on Pineda's podcast, and people still reach out today about the podcast. Yeah. So I'm hoping the same thing happens from here. Yeah. And I want other people to get into it.
Very cool, man. Love it. All right, well, let's get to the 3, 2, 1 pivot. So I want to know 3 books that changed the direction of your life, 3 books that pivoted your life, 2 people, and 1 quote.
All right. So the 3 books, I know we talked about this, but like The Road Less Stupid is, I think as in a time that we're in, like I said, operational heavy, he dumbs it down and talks in the word of like contractor language in that book to the point of like makes business and operations stupid easy if you do it that way. So if I'm the business owner that's struggling to get to the next level, I would go and reread that book. That's a book that I probably read.
There's a chapter in that book that he wrote. Do you remember that chapter where it was like, hey, me and all my friends went bankrupt in the 80s, and afterwards we wrote down every lesson we learned from going bankrupt in the 80s from real estate. here they are. And I'm like, that might be the most helpful chapter of a book I've read in my entire life. Like, it was just like.
And how simple does that seem?
Yeah, I know.
And it's just like,
hey, we all lost a lot of money. Now here's what we did wrong.
People should be writing. I'm writing down right now what's hard in my life and kind of operations because it's challenging right now. And you got to be on top of your game. So I think Keith Cunningham's brilliant.
Cool.
And so How to Win Friends and Influence People, like Dale Carnegie's a beast. And it's a classic book, but I think if you can learn how to be a better communicator, a better friend, as you're an entrepreneur, like all these transactional type meetings, you know what I mean? Or like try to figure out how to be a good friend or come off as a good person. Yeah. I think I struggle with that a lot. So I try to read his books and like try to be a better person.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time because I think that's going to go with the whole theme I'm talking about here. And I actually was at WealthCon with Ryan Pineda's events, and he was speaking there, and he sent out his SOP, so like his processes for his assistant. Yeah. I don't know if you have that.
I don't, but I heard it's pretty great.
I'll share that with you, and it's phenomenal. I mean, he goes through assistants, I'm sure. You know, it's just that's what happens. And man, his processes are to a T.
Yeah, actually, Dan and I are planning. I don't want to officially announce anything, but we're planning we'll call it a get together because I don't really have a better name for it out here in Maui later this year. So Dan Martell coming out to Maui, hopefully do some fun stuff. So y'all pay attention for that and be in the Better Life Tribe if you're not, because that's what it's going to be for. So
dang, he's a beast.
He's a beast. Anyway, all right.
Love that guy.
2 pivot people.
Well, I'm going to go with Dad on the first one because he kind of laid the footprint of what me starting in construction. I don't think I would have started in construction. I don't know if I'd have been into real estate, and I don't know if I'd have went into business, even though 6 years I didn't know what I was doing because he never really taught me business. I think it's pivotal to learn concrete. Not saying you should go all learn concrete. I think you should. Everyone should have to pour concrete. You'll learn how.
I actually really enjoy pouring concrete. That's a fun job. I've done that a number of times. It's great.
We should pour concrete sometime.
We should. It'd be a good time.
It seems like a great hangout.
Yeah, it is a good. I'm in. There's something powerful about just doing hard manual labor with a bunch of other dudes. You just build such good camaraderie and friendship.
The stuff's gonna get dry.
Yeah.
Like the time is ticking. You have to be very efficient. And you can make concrete look very easy, or you can make it look very hard and get burnt. So man, I think concrete work taught me a lot through my life. Yeah. So my dad. I'm going to have to say like the 10X rule because Grant Cardone popped up on my phone first when I was thinking about all this real estate and just built that curiosity. So I don't know if it was the 10X rule, but the curiosity of like thinking bigger, that helped me get to leveraging both time, money, and people. Yeah.
Cool. Love it. And then one quote, like what is a pivot quote in your life that you heard and you're like, I got to change everything?
I was just actually watching this, and I knew this question was coming up, but I was watching a Yogi Berra like Netflix documentary. This is really weird. I was really sick last week, and I didn't know if I was going to be here. But as I follow a theme called Unfollow the Herd, Yogi Berra says when there's a fork in the road, take it. And I don't think enough people do that. They would just naturally follow the herd all the time. And sometimes the opportunity is not. You sometimes have to go against the grain in order to seek that next opportunity. So I think when Yogi Berra says that, he was like, do you even know who Yogi Berra is? This Yankee guy. He didn't
not Yogi Bear.
Or Yogi Berra. Yeah. But really short. Didn't look like a baseball player.
Guy? Or is that Fred Flintstone? Who did the Yabba Dabba Doo?
Yeah.
What's Yogi Bear's, like the bear? What's his catchphrase?
I don't know. Isn't he like in conservation?
Smokey the bear?
That's Smokey the bear.
Smokey. Yeah, Smokey.
It was one of the bears. It was one of the bears.
Smokey the bear. All right. What's your favorite bear?
Yes.
Which bear is best?
Grizzly.
False. Black bear.
So, okay, question for you.
Okay.
So, if you could go back to 20-year-old you've just lost your job, you've just bought a house, you don't know what the next step is. If you could go back and have a conversation to that person and give them advice, what would it be?
Gosh. Just get curious a whole lot faster on how to run a business, not how to ruin your back. And just educate myself. I don't think enough people like through mentorship. Like I think as a concrete guy, you kind of get egotistical. Yeah. I think a lot of people can get egotistical, leaving, you know, they just have an ego, so they don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
I think once I finally dropped the barriers and like didn't have to go to the hospital 6 years after and take a bunch of punishment, I held myself back. That's what I did. But once I got like really vulnerable with myself and like really got deep, like ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for mentorship. Pay for good mentors. Man, they can cheat time so much faster than you trying to figure out anything on your own.
So true.
Love that.
Yeah.
So I do have a question for you, and I'm sorry, this is kind of, I should have asked this before, but you've talked about curiosity over and over and over again in this, and I love that, and I'm fascinated by that because I'm an incredibly curious person when it comes to business, when it comes to anything. And so when you're looking at your business, I am curious of like, hey, would that work? Is that going to work? But eventually you have to make a decision and like, and do that thing. And so how have you in your life like been like, this is what we're going to do? If you're always curious, how do you figure out what the right thing is?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever the right thing.
Okay.
I think you just have to make the decision on yourself to make a plan. Everything happens for a reason, you know, let God figure out the plan. I think after that, everyone will sweat the decisions down to never making an action. And I'm not a believer in that. I will figure out a decision and lay 3 on the table, you know, narrow it to 1, ask your team who's helping you achieve that.
Yeah.
And I think once like I operate on a system called EOS. And once I was back from making decisions just at Marc's level, like I don't think it just takes one person. You got to have other input at this table. Let's all come up with an option, see which one works best, talk it through, and then we're all bought into it.
Yeah.
I think once you're understanding as a team aspect, and that's, you know, a lot when my team really took off too, because I'm letting us all make the decision, not Marc is just coming with this crazy idea on his head and like, what are you talking about? We don't want to do that, you know. So you buy everyone else in, but yeah, EOS is a really big form of which helps my business grow today and I don't have to be there for a month. They know what to do.
Yep.
They know what the decisions to make. They know to make a decision as a group.
Yeah, beautiful.
Amazing.
All right, what is something you've enacted in your life in the last 12 months that's just given you a better life?
Enacted,
like started doing. Could be a habit, trait, could be something you bought, could be a new activity. Anything at all that just giving you an improved life this year?
You know, I think in the short term, like I'm just trying to get rid of notifications. I think if more people can find the focus button on their phone and like focus on what they're doing, because as a developer, you end up getting all these deals. As a real estate investor, there's so many deals. Like it gets so clouded. So I think when I'm shooting media, I'm in focus mode, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. My phone doesn't beep and I can like have it by me and really focus on what I'm doing and talking about. So being intentional, reduce notifications, and just really focus on what you're doing. And I get so much more done.
Yeah.
It's like amazing. Like
I feel like in 20 years, we're all going to look back, or maybe, you know, look back on our life today, back in 2024, and be like, what were we doing? Like having our phones buzz constantly all day long. Like I hope we get to a point in civilization where we're like, that was nuts. Like that was absolutely nuts. What were we doing? And I hope like 2024 is the peak, and we all just start going a little more Luddite. We start saying like, we don't like technology. We're going to back off because it is insane.
yeah.
This is going to sound really sad and crazy, but I was talking to somebody about the podcast, and they were asking me what I liked about it. And one of the things that I love is because I put my phone away. I don't have my Apple Watch on. And I'm like, might be the only 2 hours during my day where I'm, or week, if we're shooting one every week, that I'm not getting notifications left. I probably am. I just don't know about it.
Yeah. And half the time the problem is it's maybe more than half. They get figured out anyway.
We can go to a restaurant and have this same conversation. It's going to be completely different. We're not going to be this deep. We're not going to be, you know, I think that's what I love about podcasting. I get my employees, my main employees. We have the best I learned more about them in that hour than I would learn about them.
You have a podcast with your employees?
In the mingle. I do the podcast, like I had them all on in a year. And like instead of doing their review, do them a review like internally. Share it with the team. Yeah. And then you can the team learns more about them, what motivates them. And like I think it's just like we don't have any notifications going. We're just having like a deep conversation.
You ever heard of that game where you're at dinner with a bunch of people and the first person to look at their phone pays for the meal? Yeah, we should play that more often. Like,
good one. Yeah, go to Four Seasons and like everyone leaves their phone.
That's gonna leave so much.
All right, man. Last question of past, present, future.
All right. So you said you have 3 kids, right?
I have 3 kids.
3 kids. Love it. And how old are they?
I have a 10-year-old girl, 8-year-old girl, and a 3-year-old boy.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
They're my beasts.
Okay, so let's pretend it's 60 years down the road, and you're gone at this point. How old are you? 35. Hopefully, you're not gone. In 95. Let's say 80 years down the road. They're talking to their grandkids, and their grandkids ask them, "Hey, tell me about Grandpa. What do you want your kids to tell them?"
Yeah, I think my kids will know me as, Dad likes to. I like to be out there a little more than probably most North Dakotans. Like I like to be known, and I like to talk to bigger people, and I think they just see me taking a lot of action. I'm in front of big groups of people, and they're like, "He's just really risk adverse." And like my daughter, she's funny because she asked me, she's like, "You ever?" I asked her in the car, like, "Are you ever get nervous?" She does cheer in front of like 200-300 people, so she's just on the floor doing her thing. And I asked, "Do you get nervous?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, what do you think about?" "I don't really think about anything, Dad." And she's like the best. Like she's like freaking crazy. And I said, "Well, what are you thinking about?" She's like, "Well, sometimes my cravings." I'm like, "What kind of cravings?" I always like podcast in my car with my daughter, and I love it. And it's kind of going off the point, but she's like, if there's a hot dog wrapped in a tortilla covered in sugar, I wonder if that would be good. Like, what are we talking about?
Sounds like.
But like,
funny.
I think they just know me as being fun, and I care about everybody. I'm pretty easy to be around, and I don't know. I think they know I genuinely care to help people, and so I think we always want to be known to help people.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting more intentional with that, within like coaching people and unfollowing the herd, giving media on how I'm doing life, so people can just reenact what I'm doing.
It's awesome. It's amazing.
All right, dude. Wrap up. First question: what are you excited about?
Oh man. I'm excited for interest rates to come down to 3%.
Let's. I am believing in faith that's going to happen this year.
Oh man, I'm super excited. I'm excited about this luxury storage thing in my life right now. I get a lot of attention because of it, and I'm trying to formulate how do I partner, how do I get investors behind me in seeing that model and building that out. And I'm having a hell of a lot of fun doing it. So. We're getting all sorts of messages within LinkedIn or all our platforms on people wanting and getting excited about it. I didn't know that.
Well, where can people find you to learn more about that and reach out to you?
Yeah, so day to day, I'm on Instagram all the time. I post every day on LinkedIn. That is my biggest platform by far. Yes, really? I think we have 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. We do a good job within LinkedIn and giving media. And people. Trying to get them to unfollow the herd themselves. There's all these business owners, doctors, pharmacists, all these highly leveraged people. They want to quit their job tomorrow. Like, you went to school for 12 years and you want to quit your $400,000 year. I'm like, don't do it. Like, just hold on. Like, this
interest rates aren't down yet.
Yeah, he's like, well, I got a few $1 million. Like, hold on to that job. I promise you're gonna want to keep it. Let's figure out a plan for you and how to get out of that job. I think there's a lot of people wanting to unfollow the herd and like get out of their daytime. They want to buy back their time. They want to get time back on their side, and no matter what. So, I'm heavy on LinkedIn. I share a lot of that in a business to business type platform.
Yeah, what's been your secret on LinkedIn? What do you do there? What do you post? Because I'm not very active there.
Yeah, I post every morning at 8 a.m. or about 7:20, like 7:15 a.m. And anyway, the post goes out, and I just talk about people on passive income, whether it's business, talk about, my holding company, talk about things I'm doing, how I'm finding opportunities where they're not finding opportunities. And then I get them to the email, which is Unfollow the Herd, where you actually see the breakdown of the behind the scenes of my deals. So you can reenact it and see what I'm doing. Like I show them the HUD report, and I'm like, I got all sorts of emails on there. So we have like 300 subscribers on that email now. And I actually mentor some people once in a while now, and through LinkedIn. Literally, LinkedIn has been my only. I'm like the Lewis Howes in the beginning. like literally, it's just all LinkedIn.
Yeah,
that's where 99% of my traffic comes from.
Man, I should probably reprioritize.
I'm apparently not good at other media, video media. I'm trying to do my best.
There you go.
Yeah. So
cool, man.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. I'm excited to dig in, especially with the luxury storage. We got to talk more about that with you and Open Door Capital. So
yeah, hell yeah.
Let's talk.
Let's do it.
Appreciate you.
All right.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the insights from the episode. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode or you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read your comments to make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we have. And last but not least, please head over to social media and consider friending, following, subscribing, and all that stuff to both Better Life at Better Life over on Instagram and my own personal at Beardy Brandon for more. That's Beardy with a Y at the end of it, Beard with a Y, Brandon on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere else. Thanks again for listening. I am honored that you would bring me along on your journey to building wealth without losing your soul. This show has been a production of the Better Life Tribe, copyright 2024. Our producer is Kevin Leahy with Podcast Point Man. Our videographer and all-around talented video guy, Carson Smith. My co-host is the amazing Cam Cathcart with DealFlowRealEstate.com. And finally, this show has been all about living a better life. But if you want my spiritual answer to what it takes to live not only a better life, but the best life, head over to abetterlife.com/best life. I got a 13-minute special video for you there. For the Better Life Tribe, my name is Brandon Turner, signing off.